So the 28-70 is our new lens, and it offers mirrorless camera users in Sony FE and L mount. So that's A7, A9 users, and Leica SL2, Sigma FP, and of course the Panasonic S1 range. A smaller, lighter option compared to the 24-70. And we've been able to achieve this through a number of things by taking the range from 28 instead of 24. We've been able to simplify the optical array slightly, but without sacrificing the resolution of the lens. And by rendering the lens in what we call thermally stable composite, it makes it a much lighter option. Let me just see if I can move on this slide. So that's the lens as you would see it on an A7, I think that is. Very nicely balanced outfit. I actually use the FP quite a lot, as you would imagine, and it works very nicely on there. Absolutely tiny. You barely feel its presence. And I think we've got, this is our little claim to fame: the smallest and lightest constant f2.8 standard zoom for full frame mirrorless cameras. We do like to make these statements. We do the 14mm 1.8, the only 14mm 1.8, the FP, the smallest full frame mirrorless cameras, and now we've got the smallest constant aperture standard zoom lens as well. So that's pretty nice. But it's been quite a sophisticated, or indeed a very sophisticated design process to make a lens that's not just a high resolution lens or a good quality lens, but also nice to use. So a lot of effort's been put into making the zoom and the focus rings run smoothly, and the thermally stable composite, it has properties very similar to aluminium. So where we have, for example, an aluminium core in a lens, we can marry up TSC composite parts to it on the zoom and the focus ring with much finer tolerances. And by getting those gaps down, we can make the lens stronger and feel nicer and feel, to some degree, a little bit like a more old-fashioned lens. One reviewer did note.
Yeah, it's a really clever material, because as you say, not only is it very strong and light, but it's also, as you say, it's got a similar thermal expansion to aluminium, and that means that wherever you use a lens, whether it's cold or hot, everything is expanding or contracting at the same rate, and it makes the lens behave in a much more precise way, which is it's an incredible material.
Yes, we've had it for a little while now. It's featured in some of our earlier what we call global vision lenses, so the Art, the Sport, the Contemporary. So it's not a new material in that sense, but it's nice to see it being used more extensively. And the materials research that we do at the factory and in the R&D department is quite surprising. I think people would be amused to see quite how much effort we put into it. And we have just recently, not that it's relevant to this product, we have just recently, in the past year or so, built our own magnesium alloy processing plant on site in Azu, where our factory is. And there aren't that many companies that actually mold magnesium alloy themselves, because it's quite the thing. There's quite a lot of fire suppression, I'm told, in that manufacturing unit, and it's about 200 meters away from the main building. But it just goes to show Sigma's investment in the every aspect of making the lens, from stamping out the iris blades through to the thermally stable composite, the mag alloy processing, the technology we use. We were leaders in, years ago now, spherical lens technology and making that more available. But one of our claims to fame on this 28-70, close focusing distance, it gives a reproduction of around about 1/3 life size, thereabouts. And that's at the wide end. So you can get those very nice images where, for example, you might have a little alpine miniature flower with the Alps in the background. So you can get the flower in focus in the near ground and show it with it set within its environment. So that close focusing, very similar to the 24-70, but just a little bit smaller in life, so just 28.
It's like it's a genuine kind of workhorse lens, isn't it? It kind of shoots, landscapes at the wide end, portraits at the tight end, street and weddings and everything else in the middle, and then also you've got this kind of macro macro-esque capability, which means that you can really, leave it on your camera for pretty much everything. And other than if you're shooting, if you need to shoot like ultra telephoto stuff, it kind of ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? It's a fantastic lens.
It really does, and not to labour the point, but I think they're called standard zooms for a reason. They are the standard lens you would use most of the time. And when you consider that we're comparing it here to the 2470 Art DGDN, the 2470 is not a big lens. In fact, it's smaller than our DSLR version, and yet the 2870 even smaller and lighter, and the weight more than anything, I think, for a lot of people is going to be important. If you are shooting weddings, you are working commercially, or you do want to go down to 24mm, the 2470 Art's a great choice. But next time I go on holiday, it's going to be the 2870 that I'm taking with me, if we ever get to go on holiday again. So yeah, it's not a lot of difference. And when you look at the 28 and 24, traditionally people would have a 3-lens kit. They have a wider standard and a tele. So if you consider that we do a 14 to 24 DGDN for mirrorless cameras as well, we've got 24 covered. The next step up would be 28, so 28 to 70. And then you might go to perhaps the 100 to 400 DGDN, and that'll be your 3-lens kit. 3 lenses designed for mirrorless, optimizing the characteristics of the mirrorless camera. And this is something we are doing with these DGDN lenses. They do leverage the extra real estate that taking a mirror box out of the camera allows. And you can see the comparisons there, 470 grams instead of 835. It's a little bit shorter, it's a little bit narrower. Also smaller filter thread. So if you have unlimited budget to buy equipment, that's terrific. But if you don't, smaller filters are a little less costly, which is quite nice.
And I think those two images there are to scale, and the actual weight, the weight difference there, the 470 to 835, I think it's about 50. I think it's 56% of the weight, which is pretty amazing, really. Actually, a good way of visualizing how big this new lens is that it's almost exactly the same size as a can of Coke, almost identical. So if you imagine holding a can of Coke, it's pretty small for an f2.8 standard zoom. That's pretty tiny. So and it's just a tiny bit heavier than a can of Coke. So it's pretty amazing, really. Oh, there you go, Ed.
You're right.
Look at that.
I never made that comparison before, but you are absolutely correct. So if you want to know how big this lens is, now you know. Thank you for that, Tim. I hadn't realised that.
On the FP. Yeah. So what's quite nice is the FP and the lens together, I think, come to about 850 odd grams, which is absolutely unbelievable for a full frame camera with an f2.8 standard zoom. It's just crazy, under a kilogram. So that's got to be the smallest, it is the smallest and lightest full frame lens and standard zoom combo ever made, which is amazing.
Yeah, and putting it in context, it's only fractionally more than 2470 on its own would be. So you've got a combination there, under a kilo, that you can walk around on your daily exercise with. Obviously, if you've got something like an A7, it's available for the A7 as well. I'll turn it that way around so I can see the top plate. And that's a nice package too. It's obviously not quite as small as the FP, which is the world's smallest and lightest full-frame mirrorless camera. I think we're still right in saying that, aren't we, Tim?
We are indeed, yeah, absolutely. And one interesting thing about the 2470 and the 28, just coming back to that, is that the optical design is very similar, and I think we've got a slide, haven't we, to kind of compare the two. So you can see that the optical layout's quite similar, slightly fewer elements in the new one, but that means the image quality is quite similar too. And so everyone knows how good that 2470 is. So if you're sitting at home thinking, yeah, it's smaller and lighter, but I bet it doesn't perform as well. Well, actually, it really does. It's incredible that they've managed, the Sigma optical designers have managed to create a lens that performs pretty much on par with the 2470 in a body that's 44% lighter. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at this the other day. There's 4 FLD and 2 SLD elements in the 2470. and that drops to 2 FLD and 2 SLD elements in the 28 to 70. And you might think, well, FLD glass has got a bit of a kudos to it. And you might think, well, if you're dropping all that FLD 2 elements, it's going to be a big sacrifice. But in truth, FLD glass provides the most benefit at the wider end. So the wider angle lenses tend to benefit the most from FLD elements, appropriately used. You can't just stick a thing in and for marketing purposes, it has to be properly designed, of course. But because we've started at 28 and not 24, losing those, well, not losing, but changing those 2 FLD elements makes quite a big difference. So you'll see on the diagram there, the second lens in the first group has gone from being FLD to being, for want of a better description, regular glass. And we've also taken the plano convex element out of the middle group because they're simply just not needed for a lens starting at 28. And that's another reason why it's that little bit lighter. It's actually got a little bit less glass in it. I forget exactly how many elements it is. Oh, hang on, I've got it written here, in fact. 12 elements in 16 groups on the 2870 and 15 elements in 19 groups.
Yeah, that's correct.
Not sure how you have more groups than elements. But yeah, just losing those 3 chunks of glass.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
just losing those elements also cuts down the weight. But again, because we're starting at 28 and not 24, we're not losing anything in the resolution, which is quite impressive.
Yes.
Did you have anything to add to that?
I think, Louise.
So someone is just asking if you guys have any idea when the RF mount will be introduced.
I'm going to let Tim take that one.
We get that question asked quite a lot. So people want to know if we'll start making lenses for Canon full frame mirrorless and Nikon full frame mirrorless, as well as Fuji and other mounts. But we don't have a huge amount of information on that in the UK. Sigma Japan sort of keep that kind of thing quite close to their chest. But one thing we do know is that our chief executive has said in interviews several times that he's aware of the demand and they are looking into it. So I think as much as everybody else, we really hope we'll see them soon. I'm sure that they would sell well. So I think if they can make it work, then they will do. So fingers crossed. Watch this space.
Brilliant. Awesome.
I think there's also an issue.
Sorry, go on, Ed.
No, I was just going to say, I think there's also an issue where we do make products ourselves. We do make everything in Japan. We don't subcontract any manufacturing out, certainly outside of Japan. It's all done in Azu. So we only have the one factory at the end of the day, and it's finding an ability to work it into the production schedule apart from anything else.
Yes.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, thank you ever so much for that. And I do apologise to both you guys and the people at home for the technical difficulties that we had. But yeah, thank you so much, Ed and Tim, for coming along. Where can we find Sigma for the rest of the show?
So we have a page on the Photography Show website, which I'm just going to check the address of on the other web browser. What is it, Louise? Photographyshow.com, and then go to exhibitors and you'll find Sigma there. You can also find us at sigma-imaging-uk.com. You can tell I don't work in marketing. And during the course of this weekend, we'll be producing or making available some videos on our YouTube channel, Sigma Imaging UK Limited. So if you go to the Photography Show page and find Sigma, you'll find a list of videos that we'll be putting out over the course of the weekend.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, thank you again, guys. Now, for everyone watching at home, don't forget to check out our other talks, including Fujifilm at 11:20, and then we have Tamron at 11:50. But for now, thank you ever so much and goodbye.
Thanks, Louise.
Thank you all. Thanks for watching.